10 years ago, she gave her lunch to a hungry little boy sitting alone outside a grocery store. She thought she was simply helping a child who had not eaten that day. She never imagined that 10 years later, that same boy would walk into her office wearing an expensive suit and ask to speak with her alone. And when he finally told her why he had come, she couldn't believe what she was hearing. My name is Emily Carter. I was 31 years old when this happened. At that time, I was working as an assistant at a small real estate company in Chicago. It wasn't a glamorous job. I answered phones. I scheduled appointments. I prepared paperwork. Sometimes I stayed late just to finish things my manager didn't want to deal with. I didn't make much money, but I was doing okay. I lived in a small apartment on the north side of the city. I didn't have a fancy car. I didn't wear expensive clothes. But I was happy with my simple life. One cold November afternoon, I was walking to a nearby grocery store during my lunch break. I had only 30 minutes. I was planning to buy a sandwich and coffee before going back to work. As I walked past the entrance, I noticed a little boy sitting on the sidewalk. He looked about 8 or 9 years old. He was wearing a thin blue jacket that was much too small for him. His shoes were dirty. His hands were tucked inside his sleeves because they were cold. But what caught my attention wasn't his clothes. It was the way he was looking at people walking into the store. He wasn't asking anyone for money. He wasn't holding a sign. He was just watching. I walked past him. Then I stopped. Something about his face bothered me. I turned around. "Hey, are you okay?" The boy looked up. He nodded. "I'm fine." His voice was quiet. "Are you waiting for someone?" He looked toward the parking lot. "My mom." "Is she inside?" He shook his head. "She went to find work." I didn't know what to say. I looked at the grocery store. Then I looked back at him. "Have you eaten?" He shook his head again. That was enough for me. I went inside. I bought 2 sandwiches, a bottle of water, a banana, and a small chocolate bar. When I came back outside, the boy was still sitting in the same place. I handed him the bag. His eyes became wide. "What's this?" "Your lunch." He looked inside. Then he looked at me. "Are you sure?" I smiled. "Yes." He took the sandwich out, but he didn't eat it. Instead, he carefully put it back in the bag. I was confused. "Why aren't you eating?" He looked embarrassed. "I'm saving it for my mom." That answer broke my heart. I sat down beside him. "You can eat yours now." He shook his head. "My mom hasn't eaten either." I looked at the 2 sandwiches. I had bought enough for both of them. "Then give her one." He looked at me. "Really?" "Of course." He finally smiled. It was the first time I saw his face change. He opened the bag and took a bite. He ate slowly at first, then a little faster. I realized he must have been much hungrier than he had admitted. I waited beside him. After a few minutes, he looked at me. "What's your name?" "Emily." "I'm Noah." "Nice to meet you, Noah." He smiled. Then he asked, "Why did you help me?" I laughed softly. "I don't know." He looked confused. I said, "Maybe because someone helped me once when I needed it." That wasn't completely true, but I had learned something from my grandmother. She always said that if you have enough to share, you should share. Noah finished his sandwich. He carefully folded the empty wrapper. Then he looked at me again. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "If I ever get rich, can I pay you back?" I smiled. "You don't owe me anything." "But I will." "You don't have to." He looked serious. "I promise." I laughed. "Okay." He stood up. "Thank you, Emily." I nodded. "Take care of your mom." He started walking toward the parking lot. After a few steps, he turned around. "Emily." "Yes." He pointed at the grocery bag. "Thank you for giving me the whole lunch." I smiled. "You're welcome." Then he disappeared into the crowd. I went back to work. By the end of the day, I had almost forgotten about him. Life continued. Bills had to be paid. Emails had to be answered. Meetings had to be scheduled. And eventually, Noah became nothing more than a small memory from a cold November afternoon. I never saw him again. At least, that's what I thought. 10 years passed. I changed jobs. I became a real estate agent. I got married. Then I got divorced. I moved to a different apartment. My life changed in ways I never expected, but I still remembered that little boy sometimes, especially during winter. Whenever I saw a child sitting alone outside a store, I thought about Noah. I often wondered what happened to him. Did his mother find work? Did they get enough to eat? Did he stay in school? Did he remember me? I had no answers. Then one Monday morning, everything changed. I was sitting at my desk in my office when my receptionist knocked on the door. "Emily, there's a man here asking for you." I looked up from my computer. "Who is he?" She shook her head. "He didn't give me much information." "Did he make an appointment?" "No." I sighed. "Tell him I'll be available in 10 minutes. She didn't leave. Instead, she said, "Emily, I think you should see him." "Why?" "He said your name like he already knew you." I looked at her. "What does he look like?" "He's young. Maybe 20. He's wearing a very expensive suit." I smiled. "That doesn't tell me much." She hesitated. "There's something else." "What?" "He came in a black car with a driver." I stopped typing. "A driver?" She nodded. "And he specifically said he doesn't want anyone else in the room." I had no idea who this person could be. Still, I told her to send him in. A few seconds later, the office door opened. A young man walked inside. He was around 19 or 20. Tall. Well-dressed. Confident. He was wearing a dark blue suit and an expensive watch. But there was something familiar about his face. I couldn't explain it. He looked at me. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he smiled. "Hello, Emily." I stood up. "Do I know you?" He took a slow breath. "I don't think you remember me." I stared at him. Then he reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a small folded piece of paper. He placed it on my desk. I looked down. It was an old grocery receipt. The date was from 10 years ago. November 18th. My heart started beating faster. I looked back at him. "Where did you get this?" He smiled. "I kept it." "Why?" He looked directly into my eyes. "Because that was the day you changed my life." I couldn't move. Then he said something that made my entire body go cold. "My name is Noah." For a few seconds, I couldn't speak. I looked at him again. The expensive suit. The expensive watch. The confident way he stood in my office. None of it matched the little boy I remembered sitting outside that grocery store. But his eyes did. Those same quiet eyes. That same smile. It was him. "Noah." He nodded. I sat down slowly. "I can't believe it's you." He smiled. "I wasn't sure you'd remember me." "I remember you." I looked at the old receipt on my desk. I remember that day. I remember everything about it. Noah sat across from me. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then I asked, "How did you find me?" He smiled. "That took a long time." He told me that after that day, he and his mother had moved several times. His mother eventually found steady work. They left Chicago and moved to Milwaukee. Noah stayed in school. He did well. Very well. He became interested in business. By the time he was 16, he had started selling computer parts online. At 18, he had built his first small company. By 20, he had become successful enough to have employees working for him. I looked at him. "You did all that?" He laughed. "I had a lot of help." "From your mother?" "Mostly." He paused. "And from someone else." I knew exactly who he meant. "Me?" He nodded. "But I only gave you lunch. You gave me something more important." "What?" "Hope." I looked away. I didn't know how to respond. Noah continued. "That day, I thought nobody cared about us. Mom had lost her job. We were staying in a motel. We didn't know where we would be living the following week. He told me that his mother had been trying to find work for months. She had gone into the grocery store that day because someone had told her there might be a job opening. She left Noah outside because she couldn't afford to take him with her on the bus to another part of the city. She had promised to come back quickly, but things went wrong. She was gone much longer than expected. Noah had been sitting outside for hours. He hadn't eaten since the night before. Then I arrived. I looked at him. "Why didn't you tell me all that?" He smiled. "I was a kid." He looked down at the receipt. I didn't know how. I picked it up. "You kept this for 10 years?" He nodded. My mom kept it first. Why? Because she wanted me to remember. Remember what? That when we had almost nothing, someone still gave us something. I smiled. Your mother sounds like a good woman. She is. He paused. She wanted to meet you. I looked at him. She did. She always wondered who you were. I felt a strange warmth in my chest. Where is she now? Noah's smile disappeared. She died 3 years ago. I was quiet. I'm sorry. He nodded. She was sick. Before she died, she gave me that receipt. He pointed toward the desk. She told me I had to find you someday. I looked at the receipt. What did she tell you? He took a deep breath. She said, find the woman who gave you lunch when she had no reason to. My eyes filled with tears. I had never expected something so small to matter that much to someone. Noah continued. She also told me something else. What? She said I shouldn't just thank you. I looked at him. Then why did you come? He smiled. Because I want to give you something. I immediately shook my head. No. He laughed. You don't even know what it is. I don't need anything. That's exactly what I expected you to say. He reached into his briefcase. He pulled out a folder. He placed it on my desk. I opened it. Inside was a property document. I looked at the address. It was a building downtown. A large commercial property. I looked at him. What is this? It's yours. I laughed because I thought he was joking. Noah, I can't accept this. You haven't even heard the whole story. He told me that his company had recently purchased several buildings in the area. One of them was the building where my real estate office was located. I stared at him. You're my landlord? He laughed. Technically. I smiled. So, you came here to tell me you're raising my rent? No. He pushed another paper toward me. I'm giving you the building. I stared at him. What? I bought it 6 months ago. Why? Because I remembered what you did. I shook my head. Noah, that's too much. He looked at me. You gave me a $20 lunch. It wasn't even $20. He smiled. Fine. A $12 lunch. I laughed. But this is different. He nodded. I know. I can't accept something worth millions because I gave a kid a sandwich. He leaned forward. I'm not paying you back for lunch. Then what? I'm giving you the opportunity one wish my mother had received. I didn't understand. Noah explained that after his mother died, he learned how difficult it had been for her to find work. She had been turned away from jobs because she had no transportation. She had no savings. She had no one to help her. So Noah started a foundation. The foundation helped single parents get temporary housing and job training. The building he bought would become the foundation's first permanent center. And I want you to run it. I looked at him. Me? You know people. You understand families. And you know what it feels like to help someone without expecting anything in return. I was speechless. Noah continued. My mother always said that one kind person can change the direction of another person's life. He looked at the old receipt. You changed mine. I wiped my eyes. I didn't do anything special. He shook his head. That's what makes it special. I looked at the folder again. I still don't understand why you needed to find me after 10 years. He smiled. Because I made a promise. What promise? He pointed at the receipt. When you gave me that lunch, I told you that if I ever became rich, I would pay you back. I laughed. I remember. You told me I didn't owe you anything. I still mean that. He smiled. I know. He stood up. But I don't think this is about owing you. He walked toward the door. It's about making sure the next kid doesn't have to sit outside a grocery store wondering if anyone cares. He stopped. Then he turned around. There's one more thing. What? He smiled. My mother kept something else. He took a small envelope from his pocket. He placed it on my desk. My name was written on the front. Emily. I looked at him. She wrote this for me? No. He shook his head. She wrote it for you. I slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. I read the first line. Dear Emily, you probably don't remember my son, but I will never forget you. I stopped. My eyes filled with tears. I continued reading. 10 years ago, you gave my hungry child your lunch. You probably thought it was nothing. To us, it was the first time in a long time that someone had shown us kindness without asking for anything in return. I couldn't continue. Noah stood quietly near the door. I wiped my eyes and kept reading. Then I reached the final paragraph. It said, "One day, my son may become successful. If he does, please don't let him simply give you money. Tell him to use his success to help someone else. That is how kindness should travel." I looked up. Noah was crying too. I folded the letter. "Your mother was an amazing woman." He nodded. "She was." Then he said, "That's why I came here today." I looked at him. For the first time, I can finally do what she asked. "What?" "Help someone else." He smiled. "And I want you beside me." I looked at the papers on my desk. The building, the foundation, the letter, the old receipt. 10 years ago, I had given a hungry little boy one simple lunch. I never expected that one small act would return to my life. But there was something Noah still hadn't told me, and I wouldn't discover the truth until the following morning. The next morning, I arrived at my office earlier than usual. I couldn't stop thinking about Noah. I kept looking at the old receipt on my desk. It was strange. 10 years ago, it had meant nothing to me. Now it felt like one of the most important things I owned. I opened the folder Noah had left behind. The property documents were still there. So was the letter from his mother. I read it again. Then I noticed something I hadn't seen the night before. There was a second page. I turned it over. At the bottom was a handwritten sentence. "Emily, there's something my son doesn't know." I froze. I read the sentence again. "Something Noah didn't know?" I kept reading. "I never told Noah everything about the day you met him." My heart started beating faster. The letter explained that when Noah's mother had gone inside the grocery store that afternoon, she wasn't looking for food. She was looking for work. She had been desperate. She had lost her job weeks earlier. She was behind on rent, and she had received an eviction notice. But there was something else. She had been afraid to tell Noah. She had been diagnosed with a serious illness. She knew she might not have much time. That's why she had been trying so hard to find someone who could take care of Noah if she became too sick. She had spoken to several people. Nobody wanted the responsibility. Then she met a woman who worked with a local family support organization. That woman told her about a program that helped children stay with their parents during difficult times. She only needed temporary housing and help finding work, but the program had a waiting list. So that day, she went to the grocery store because a manager had promised to speak with her about a job. While she was inside, Noah sat outside. And that's when I found him. I stopped reading. The story I remembered was only half the story. I had thought I was the person who helped Noah, but his mother had been fighting for him long before I ever met him. I continued reading. She wrote that after she came outside and saw Noah eating the lunch I had given him, she started crying. Not because she was ashamed, because she realized something. There were still good people in the world. She said she had watched me walk away. She wanted to thank me, but she was too embarrassed to approach me. She never learned my last name. She didn't know where I worked. She only knew my first name, Emily, and the grocery store where we met. I put the letter down. I couldn't believe it. Then I read the final page. She had written, "I hope one day you understand that you didn't just feed my son. You gave me one more reason to keep fighting." I covered my face. I cried quietly at my desk. A few minutes later, someone knocked on my door. I looked up. It was Noah. He was standing there with 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might need this." I smiled. "I do." He walked in. I looked at him. "Did you know about this letter?" He shook his head. "No." I handed it to him. He read it. His face changed. He sat down. For several minutes, he didn't say anything. Then he whispered, "I never knew she was that sick." I reached across the desk. "I'm sorry." He nodded. "She always made everything look okay." That's what parents do sometimes. He smiled sadly. "She was always stronger than I realized." I told him what I had learned. About the job. The eviction notice. the housing program, and the fact that she had been trying to protect him. Noah wiped his eyes. She never told me. Maybe she wanted you to remember her as your mother, not as someone who is sick. He nodded. Then he looked at me. Emily. Yes. Do you know what happened after you gave me that lunch? I shook my head. No. He smiled. My mother came outside. What? She saw me eating. He laughed softly. She asked me who gave me the food. What did you say? I told her your name. I smiled. And then, she walked toward you. I looked surprised. I never saw her. She stopped. Why? Because she saw you get into a taxi. I remembered that day. I had been late getting back to work. I had called a taxi because my car was being repaired. I never knew she had watched me leave. Noah continued. She wanted to run after you. But she didn't. Why? Because she saw you were already helping someone else. I looked at him. What do you mean? He told me that while waiting for the taxi, I had given a few dollars to an elderly man who was standing near the bus stop. I barely remembered it. It was just another small thing. But his mother remembered. She told Noah about it that night. She said, that woman doesn't know us. She didn't help us because she wanted something. That's the kind of person you should remember. I looked down. I had no idea that anyone had noticed. Noah smiled. She remembered you for the rest of her life. I couldn't speak. Then he stood up. Come with me. Where? I want to show you something. We left the office. He drove us across the city. After about 20 minutes, we stopped in front of an old building. It was small, brick walls, large windows, a faded sign above the entrance. I looked at Noah. What is this? My mother's first apartment. I stared at the building. She lived here. After that day, she found temporary work. Then she got this apartment. He pointed to the second floor. She lived there for almost 5 years. We went inside. The apartment had been empty for months. Noah unlocked the door. I walked in. Everything was simple. A small kitchen, a narrow living room, an old sofa, and a wooden table near the window. Noah walked toward a cabinet. He opened it. Inside was a small box. He took it out. This was hers. He opened it. Inside were photographs. One showed Noah as a little boy. Another showed his mother. Then I saw something that made me stop. It was a photograph of me. I stared at it. How did she get this? Noah smiled. She found you. I looked at him. What? Not immediately. She spent years trying to find you. My heart skipped. Why? She wanted to thank you. I looked at the photograph again. It wasn't a recent picture. It was me in my 20s. The picture had been taken outside my office. I remembered that day. Someone had asked me for directions. I had no idea anyone had taken a photograph. Noah explained that his mother had finally found my name through the grocery store manager. But she never contacted me. Why not? She was afraid. Afraid of what? She didn't want you to think she was asking for something. I looked down. She had carried that gratitude for years. And I had never known. Noah closed the box. She told me to find you only when I was ready. Ready for what? To continue what she started. I looked at him. What did she start? He smiled. Helping people who feel invisible. He showed me a folder. Inside were handwritten notes. Names. Families. Single mothers. Children. People who had needed help. His mother had been quietly helping people for years. She used part of every paycheck. Sometimes it was $20. Sometimes $50. Sometimes she bought groceries. Sometimes she paid a bill. She never told anyone. Noah looked at me. She learned that from you. I shook my head. No. He smiled. Yes. I looked around the small apartment. The place where his mother had raised him. The place where she had dreamed about giving him a better life. And suddenly, I understood why Noah had come looking for me. He wasn't trying to repay me. He was trying to keep his mother's promise alive. But then he said something I wasn't prepared to hear. Emily, there's one more thing. What? He looked toward the window. My mother didn't just want you to help run the foundation. She wanted you to have something. I looked at him. What? He reached into the old wooden box. He pulled out a small key. He placed it in my hand. I stared at it. What is this open? Noah smiled. The place where she kept everything she wanted you to have. I looked at the small key in my hand. What does it open? Noah smiled. You'll see. We left the apartment and drove to the other side of the city. I had no idea where we were going. After about 20 minutes, Noah pulled into a quiet neighborhood. There was an old brick house at the end of the street. It wasn't large. It wasn't fancy. But it looked warm. Noah parked the car. This was my mother's house. I looked at him. She owned this. Yes. How? She bought it years ago. I couldn't believe it. He walked toward the front door. There was a small lock beside the handle. He pointed at the key in my hand. Try it. I put the key into the lock. It turned. The door opened. We stepped inside. The house was quiet. There was old furniture covered with sheets. Family photographs were hanging on the walls. I saw pictures of Noah as a child. His mother holding him. Noah at school. Noah at his first birthday. Noah graduating from high school. It felt like walking through someone's entire life. Then I noticed a photograph on the fireplace. It was a picture of Noah and his mother standing outside the grocery store where I had met him. I stared at it. When was this taken? About 8 years ago. Why did she go back there? She wanted to show Noah the place where everything changed. I looked at the photograph again. Then Noah walked toward a hallway. There is one more room. We entered a small bedroom. There was a wooden desk beside the window. On the desk were notebooks, envelopes, and photographs. Noah opened one of the drawers. Inside were dozens of letters. All of them had names written on them. He handed me one. I looked at the name. It was mine. My hands started shaking. She wrote all these? He nodded. She wrote them over the years. I opened the first one. The letter was dated 7 years earlier. It said, Dear Emily, you probably don't remember my son anymore, but I remember you. Every time I see someone helping a stranger, I think of you. I swallowed hard. I opened another. This one was dated 5 years later. Dear Emily, Noah is doing well. He is becoming the kind of man I always hoped he would be. I wish you could see him. I couldn't stop reading. There were letters from almost every year. She never sent them. She simply wrote them. In one letter, she talked about Noah's first business. In another, she wrote about his first big success. In another, she wrote about her illness getting worse. Then I found the last letter. It was written only a few months before she died. I opened it carefully. Dear Emily, if you are reading this, then my son finally found you. I don't know how much longer I have, but I know I have been blessed. You gave my son a meal when he was hungry. You gave me hope when I had almost none. I never forgot that. Please don't feel like you owe us anything. You don't. The only thing I ask is that you help Noah remember why he started. Money can build buildings. Money can create companies. But money cannot make someone feel seen. You did that for my son. Please help him do the same for others. I couldn't hold back my tears. I sat on the edge of the bed. Noah sat beside me. My mother loved you, he said. I shook my head. She barely knew me. She knew enough. We sat in silence. Then I asked, Why did you wait 10 years? He smiled. Because my mother told me not to find you until I could do something meaningful. What does that mean? When I was young, I wanted to find you immediately. Why didn't you? Because I didn't want to show up and say thank you. He looked at the letters. I wanted to show you that your kindness mattered. I smiled. You didn't have to prove anything to me. I know. He looked at me. But I needed to prove it to myself. I understood. He had spent years carrying the memory of that lunch. It had become part of who he was. We stayed in the house for another hour. Before leaving, Noah handed me the key. Keep it. I looked at him. Why? My mother wanted you to have it. I can't take her house. He smiled. She didn't want you to live here. Then what? She wanted you to decide what happens to it. I looked around. What do you mean? Noah explained that his mother had left the house to him. He had planned to sell it, but after reading her letters, he changed his mind. I want this to become the first home for the families our foundation helps. I looked at him. Like a temporary home? Exactly. A safe place for mothers and children who have nowhere to go. I smiled. Your mother would have loved that. I know. We left the house. On the drive back, I looked out the window. I thought about how strange life could be. 10 years ago, I had given a hungry boy my lunch. I didn't know his name. I didn't know his story. I didn't know his mother was sick. I didn't know that one small act would stay with them for years. And I certainly didn't know that the little boy would grow up and return to my life. But the story didn't end there. Over the next few months, the foundation grew. The building Noah had given us became a place where struggling families could find temporary housing, food, job training, and help getting back on their feet. I started working there full-time. I left real estate. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was doing something that mattered. Noah visited every week. He didn't act like a billionaire. He didn't talk about money. He spent time with the families. He played with the children. He listened to their stories. And every time someone thanked him, he said the same thing. Don't thank me. Someone helped my family once. Now it's my turn. One afternoon, a little girl came into the center. She was about 8 years old. She was holding her mother's hand. She looked scared. I walked over and introduced myself. Hi, I'm Emily. The little girl looked at me. Are you going to help us? I smiled. Yes. She smiled back. Then she asked, why? I looked at her mother. Then I thought about Noah. I knelt down beside the little girl. Because sometimes people need someone to help them until things get better. She nodded. Then she hugged me. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I was back outside that grocery store 10 years earlier. I could see a little boy sitting alone. I could see his small blue jacket. I could see the grocery bag in his hands. And I could hear him saying, if I ever get rich, can I pay you back? I smiled. He had kept his promise. But not in the way either of us expected. He didn't pay me back. He passed it forward. And that was worth far more than money. Years later, Noah and I still work together. The foundation helped thousands of families. The old house became a safe place for mothers and children. And the little wooden box from Noah's mother stayed in my office. Inside it, I kept the old grocery receipt. The one thing that started everything. Sometimes people ask me why I left a successful career to work at a family foundation. I always give them the same answer. Because one day, I gave my lunch to a hungry little boy. And 10 years later, he walked into my office and reminded me that kindness doesn't disappear. It waits. It grows. And sometimes, it comes back when you least expect it. Not as money. Not as success. But as another chance to help someone who needs you. And whenever I see a hungry child sitting alone, I remember Noah. I remember his promise. And I remember the lesson his mother left behind. You never know how far one small act of kindness can travel. Sometimes it can travel for 10 years. Sometimes it can change an entire family. And sometimes it can come right back to your door, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a promise that was never forgotten.